Read to me, Grandma, a Disney keepsake collection. Cinderella, retold by Erin Rose Grobarek. Once upon a time, there lived a kind and beautiful girl named Cinderella, who dreamed of finding her true love. Cinderella's stepmother and her stepsisters, Drizella and Anastasia, were very cruel to her. They forced Cinderella to do all the chores around the house and served them breakfast in bed every morning. Cinderella greeted her stepsisters, but Drizella and Anastasia just grabbed their trays grumpily. Then the stepmother snatched her tray and yelled, "Get on with your chores." In the castle nearby, the king was worried about his son. He wanted the prince to fall in love and marry. "We will host a ball," the king declared. "Hopefully the prince will find his true love there." Later that afternoon, a royal messenger knocked on Cinderella's door with an invitation. "Every maiden must attend the royal ball," read the stepmother. "That means I can go," Cinderella said dreamily. "You can go if you finish your chores," the stepmother said slyly, "and if you can find something proper to wear." Cinderella found her old pink dress. She would mend it so it would be proper for the royal ball. But before she could sew a single stitch, her horrible stepsisters put her to work. Jacques and Gus, two of Cinderella's mice friends, knew she would not be able to finish her dress in time. Together with the other mice and the birds, they did it for her. When the dress was finished, they showed it to Cinderella. It was beautiful. But when Cinderella's stepsisters saw the dress, they were filled with jealousy. They tore the pretty dress and ruined it. Cinderella would not be able to go to the royal ball. Cinderella ran to the garden and cried. Then, poof! Her fairy godmother appeared. "Dry your eyes," the fairy godmother said. "What you need is a pumpkin," and she waved her wand. Suddenly, a small pumpkin grew into a beautiful carriage, and Jacques and Gus turned into horses. Then the fairy godmother waved her wand again, and Cinderella was wearing an elegant ball gown and delicate glass slippers. "On the final stroke of midnight, the spell will be broken," the fairy godmother warned Cinderella. "Everything will be as it was before."
Mama, this one.
Yep, there she is. "Thank you, fairy godmother," Cinderella called gratefully as she climbed into the carriage. When Cinderella entered the ballroom, everyone was struck by her beauty, including the prince. He refused to dance with anyone else. All the guests watched as the two gracefully twirled to the music. "Who is she?" someone asked. "Shh! I've never seen her before," said another. The stepmother peered through the crowd at the mysterious girl dancing with the dashing prince. "There is something very familiar about her," she said. Cinderella forgot about the fairy godmother's warning until she heard the clock begin to chime midnight. "I must go," she said, and she turned to run. "Please come back," the prince called after her. "I don't even know your name." The prince tried to chase Cinderella, but he couldn't get past the maidens in the ballroom. They all wanted to dance with the prince, but he could think only about the woman who had stolen his heart. As Cinderella ran down the castle steps, she accidentally lost one of her glass slippers behind her. Cinderella's carriage hurried away, and on the final stroke of midnight, the spell was broken. All Cinderella had left from her magical night was a single glass slipper. The next day, the king ordered every maiden in the kingdom to try on the glass slipper that had been found on the castle steps. The prince hoped to find his true love this way. The stepmother figured out that it was Cinderella who had danced with the prince. She knew the slipper would fit Cinderella, so she locked Cinderella in her room. The two stepsisters tried to cram their big feet into the delicate glass slipper, but it didn't fit them. Meanwhile, Jacques and Gus helped Cinderella break out of her room. She hurried downstairs, but before she could try on the slipper, it crashed to the floor and shattered. "Perhaps this will help," Cinderella said, and she pulled the other slipper out of her pocket. It fit her foot perfectly. Soon after, the prince and Cinderella were married. Cinderella's dream had finally come true, and she and the prince lived happily ever after. The end.